So unfortunately, my guest, Tom Whitmire, is having some technical difficulties, but we'll get started. I'm hoping, I have total faith that he's going to be coming on pretty soon. So I'm going to go ahead and start the record because we need to get started. It is time to get started. Now, today we are having some technical difficulties, so you're going to see Tom join us whenever he can. And so right now, all we can do is open our mind, and there he is. But open our mind, it's time to dance. And Tom, work with Robert to adjust yourself as well. Okay, so it's time to dance. Everything's going to work out really well. And open up your mind, because we're going to learn a lot about lifestyle medicine. So here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, not long ago, I was bragging about this 3-hour cruise that Robert and I went on. It was a vegan wagon cruise in West Palm Beach, and I fell in love with Chef Alex and ended up dancing with this guy that I ended up knowing was the mastermind behind the event. And he has turned out to be quite a wonderful friend during a time where I was in so much need of so much help to get the I am the solution. But let me tell you about Tom Whitmire as I've gotten to know him. I would say, you've heard me say this before. He's a Swiss Army knife. He does a lot of many things. And so when we talk about a doula, you think about a woman, but we're going to change all of that today. That's why we had to dance today. Get your mind open to seeing something different and new, because there's more to Tom Whitmire than meets the eye. Not only is he a certified doula, but he is also a lifestylist. I've got to read this because there's so much. A concierge health consultant, like I said, a certified doula who specializes in fertility, prenatal, nutritional health. He also helps with natural birth. Now, he's the first one to admit that he's never assisted in a live birth, but there's more to birth than just delivering a child. There is so much to prepare the body for. And I thought, this is fascinating, because when I got pregnant, I wasn't thinking about toxins or not being my body, the terrain in my body not being ready. But for those of you who are grandmothers today that want to help your children and expose them to something different and new so that they can have a better chance of having a successful delivery and a happier child. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Tom Whitmire, certified doula, is here to do just that. Welcome, Tom. I'm so grateful that you are in the classroom.
Aloha, Lillian. Thank you for having me so much. Thank you for doing these amazing shows and putting on these amazing conferences and inspiring people with your words and wisdom. and dancing.
You're funny. You're funny. Okay. So before we get started, I want people to get to know the you that I have fallen in love with. You're very unique, a very unique individual, and very much aligned with what I believe is too, because I believe that God did not make me a doctor, because today doctors have so much to lose if they get in trouble by saying something that they're considered misinformation,
Yeah.
that may be true, but not in alignment with today's beliefs and values for the minority. And so with that in mind, I always say, I have nothing to lose. I have everything to share. So with you, I heard you say that too. And I'm like, okay, so share a little bit about your background and what gave you the passion to say, I'm going to say it no matter what.
Sure. Thank you. I was born in Flint, Michigan, raised in Flushing, Michigan, graduated from Michigan State, had a wonderful upbringing and family life. I was as I would call, a world-class athlete in high school. And it wasn't until I was 30 years old that somebody ever said to me, hey, did you know that the food you eat and the beverages that you drink actually affect the way you perceive and act in the world? And I was like, oh my gosh, as an athlete growing up, not with a single coach, not a single parent, not a single teacher, not anybody in my entire sphere said, hey, you would perform better both in the classroom and on the athletic field if you ate fruits and vegetables instead of going to Old Country Buffet or McDonald's as your pregame meal. It was just this custom in America. We would go to Taco Bell before a game and then wonder why we weren't performing. And the same thing was in the classroom. And so it wasn't until I was 30 years old and I couldn't function in my job anymore, and I just needed a change. My brother lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and I decided, well, I'm going to move to Phoenix to help support my brother because he has Crohn's, colitis, IBS. We don't know what this is. And he's teaching, coaching, and getting a master's degree. So I took a 3-day road trip down there. And on the third day that I was there, we just went on like a sunset bike ride, and I hit the brakes, got ejected over the handlebars, and fractured my clavicle. And that was the point. It was like I just fell 3 feet and broke into 4 different pieces. And I used to be a world-class athlete, playing football, basketball, and running track. And now my body is so damaged. And I just had this moment of like, what's going on? And I had this like mental letdown as well, where I wanted to help my brother coach his basketball team. And on that same day, I was told we can't have anybody involved in the school system in any way. And that included me as an unpaid coach. So Netflix, Hulu had just come out, and I started seeing things like Super Size Me, King Corn, Food Inc., Sweet Misery. And for the first time, the information penetrated me, and I said, whoa, there's this whole world out there that I don't know of that's being hidden, and I want to know more.
Isn't that beautiful? And I always say that sometimes we need to go back to the tomb. I call it the tomb. And sometimes when you go to the tomb, you find death, or you expect to find death. But when Mary went to the tomb that morning, she saw resurrection. She saw that there was nothing there. And with your stories, my stories, the stories of many people that stumble upon natural health or a change in nutrition, or spontaneously changing their life and becoming healthy without needing to take medication, starts from tragedy.
Yeah.
Do you find that in your coaching career as well?
Yeah, from my pain then grew my passion, is what I've heard, some say that I've grown to like.
Yes. So what was your first step? Because you were there to help your brother. Now you are not in a place where you can help anybody, not even yourself. So how did you take that step? Okay, I know you started watching television. A lot of people watch television, but nothing materializes from that. So what was your first step that you said, you know what, I've got to do something about this?
The first thing that if I look back on it is when I went for medical help with a fractured clavicle, there was no help provided by anybody in the medical system. They didn't want to touch me. They just wanted the x-ray, and everybody was just so cautious about what they did. And nobody actually offered me any help. Like, this is what happened to you. This is the process to get better. This is who's gotten better. Instead, it was, hey, we want to give you this pain medication. And then they would talk about, don't leave the pain medication in your car because somebody saw it. They'll break into your window to steal your pain medication. And the next thing I know is like, you haven't given me anything about my bone that and how I can get better. You're just all this billing processes and what's my insurance? And I had to go to a different building because they wouldn't accept me the first place I went. And that's the first time that I was actually in the system as well, but actually had the vision to see that this isn't a system that's set up to benefit.
So you were knocked off your horse so that your eyes could be open.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. So, okay. So I can see how you became a lifestyle. So, okay. So now you are learning more for yourself, but at that point you go, okay, now I need to take this information and help others. But then you're going to now look at fertility and people, because that seems to be the biggest fear right now among the millennials, among people that are childbearing years, that they can't get pregnant, they want to adopt, they're being told that if they don't go through this fertility process, that they won't get pregnant. But you're saying that, would you say that that is a true statement of fact, or is that a true statement for people that want to sell you fertility drugs and fertility process?
Yeah, that's what the media has led us to believe.
Yes.
The corporate media, and they're all in the same industrial complex. But we have a food industry that's in bed with a pharmaceutical industry, and then they're paying money, as we know, to the politicians and the television industry. So they are the same industry, and that industry can make $800, or somebody can make $800 by telling the truth of what is preventing the female from becoming pregnant, or they can make $80,000 by telling you about injections and all this medical science that they've done. But the medical science is all, oh, well, this is something that we've been doing for a month or a year or 2 years or 3 years. When I'm taking it back to stuff that we've been doing for thousands, hundreds of years, just making sure that the body is cleansed and properly fueled.
Okay, so as you are learning for yourself, you decide that you want to become a coach. So you go dive in, you become a lifestylist through Hippocrates Health and Wellness, right?
I'm going to circle back because I wouldn't say that I decided that.
Isn't that true? We ride the wave to shore, right?
Yeah.
We ride the wave. Okay.
Let me take you back to my brother's apartment in Phoenix, Arizona. I got the clavicle. He's got the IBS, the Crohn's, and the colitis. At the same time, my grandma had breast cancer and nobody knew what to do. And my cousin was going through pregnancy complications.
Wow.
And my brother was the first person that's like, I have to figure this out. And when I started doing research, anytime I knew something to be true, and then, something else would come in, and then they would say something, I would just throw that person completely out. And one of the first people I found doing research was Jordan Rubin, who started Garden of Life and had a supplement line and books that he had written on him ridding himself of Crohn's, colitis, IBS, those sort of issues. So I followed his protocols. But what I didn't want to do is just force something on my brother without me doing it first. So I started doing this, colon cleanse, colitis, eliminating dairy and sugar and caffeine. And all of a sudden I started seeing improvements in me almost immediately. So then I got to the point where I was confident enough to show that to my brother, and he would do it. He'd feel good for a couple days. But what would happen without him knowing it is that he was on 12 different medications from 4 different doctors. And these are opium-based medications.
Oh.
And every doctor he saw, they would add a medication or as I call it, a stream of revenue, but no doctor would take away a medication, or as I would call it, a stream of revenue. So when he goes to make a decision, he's not making his what can I feel better. He's got all this medical attention on him, and then he's taking stuff that he's addicted to. So when he starts to feel better, he went back to his addictions. And that's what was really hard with me. He would go to a doctor's appointment and the doctor would say, I want you to go to Home Depot and buy 2 hot dogs and a Coke. You need to put on weight. And that was a medical diagnosis from a doctor, was Home Depot's hot dog stand. And I'm trying to show him, fruits and vegetables for the first time. So what ultimately happened is I continued for that 4 months. I fractured my clavicle in December of 2009. On February 14th, 2010, my brother and I went to a Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet to celebrate my half birthday. Some other people might celebrate other stuff on that day. And we came home, we were both sick. He was on his hands and knees, like in the bathroom. He had to have like a shower just running on his back. And that's when I said, I'm done. And since February 14th, 2010, I haven't purchased, prepared, or eaten meat. I haven't consumed caffeine. I haven't consumed dairy, like eliminated. And that was kind of like my health born on date. So from February 14th, then my mom retired and I went back to Michigan in June for a retirement party. And at a retirement party, I was like, what have you done? You look fantastic. And I'm like, I haven't done anything. I've had a fractured clavicle. I haven't worked out. I would maybe walk for 30 minutes a day. And that's like, oh my gosh, I made these small changes thinking it was just something that was, what you had to do for a colon, for a diagnosis, a specific diagnosis, but my whole body had reset itself. And I was never obese or fat or overweight. I was just consistently big like everybody else. But when I got back, I lost 27 pounds and never worked out, broke a sweat or anything. And it was like, whoa, supplements, health, nutrition, this all changed my body. And now I want to share it with other people if they're open to it.
And that's the main thing, if they're open to it. But how do we know if they're open to it unless you just kind of dip your toe in the water, you share it. And that's one of the reasons why we are having this conversation. And for those of you who have any questions for Tom, type in a queue, write your questions down, and we'll get to them before the end of class today. And so today we are talking with Tom Whitmire. He's a certified doula. So far, we've learned about, what got him to change his lifestyle for himself. And we hear that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and vice versa. When the teacher is ready, the students appear, which is this case. And so you were able to help yourself. Were you able to help your brother? Was he able to help himself?
So we've had this, dynamic dance where he will come in and he will start and then he goes out. And ultimately the colon doctor, I will preference, almost all colon doctors are surgeons. They're not, oh, I'm going to fix your colon by using nutrition. They're surgeons by trade. And he was led down an 8-year path that resulted in him doing a colon surgery and having his colon removed. And when I presented to him, I think that this case is an infection. It's not that, your colon's deficient or default or ruined or broken or will never work again. It's that you have an infection. And the first surgery they did, they opened him up and they couldn't finish, or they couldn't even, I believe, start because the infection was so bad. But they still, kept their stream of revenue and did that. And to this day, I really think if they would just faked the colon surgery and just made him, stay at home and get off all the medication because they were doing the surgery, and change some of the things because the surgery was coming, he just had the surgery, he would have had a great placebo effect and still had his colon. But instead they do the surgery, it doesn't work, and you don't have your colon for the rest of your life. He had a bag and all kinds of complications with that.
And I say this all the time, Tom, once you get medicalized, there's no turning back. there are certain things you can turn back on. You can get away from medications, but once they do surgery and they take something away, or they put something in, or they replace something, or whatever it is, there's no turning back. And so unfortunately, your brother has been a very good example of what could happen if you become part of the system. Unfortunately. Now, you had mentioned also that was it your cousin that was having some fertility issues? And so let's talk about how you dive in from that, and you're all in, you become certified as a health coach, a lifestylist. Then now, how is it that you became so passionate about fertility and the reproductive system?
All right, great question. What I originally saw was that if I presented somebody something as simple as eat these fruits and eat these vegetables, they would always automatically have a response to me of why they couldn't possibly do that and how that's dangerous. I read this article, my doctor says not to. But the same people, within the next 5 minutes, they're eating an Oreo and drinking an energy drink. And there's my doctor told me not to eat, Doritos and Oreos and cupcakes and cake, and to drink energy drinks and all this random product that's never been tested, but they've been ingrained in their mind, oh, don't eat this fruit, this vegetable. Even sprouts, if you tell a pregnant woman to eat wheatgrass, oh, I heard that wheatgrass contains E. coli and I can't eat wheatgrass. Well, wheatgrass doesn't grow E. coli. It's just that they want you to have something in your mind that, oh, well, the guy that cut the wheatgrass might not have washed his hands, so it could have this. And so there's all these like roadblocks. So I was entering all these roadblocks. But the main reason I got into fertility is the roadblocks were a lot bigger when I was working with elderly people who had, complications that may have stemmed from, let's just say, mercury amalgam fillings. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a second, I could work for them forever trying to explain to them that why they should have the mercury removed from the mouth, and this is the symptoms that they're having. Or I could work with mothers who are, wanting to be fertile, wanting to give birth, and I can instruct them, hey, let's do a process where you never have to put the mercury into your child's mouth, and we never have to do these cleanses and these detoxes, because the child will never have to, consume all the stuff that we're trying to detox and cleanse from. And that's when I started discovering my passion. What was your question? Is the passion became, oh, these people are excited for information and they are taking it in for a sponge, and they're not giving me the roadblocks like some of the other people that I've encountered in the world.
But it's amazing how many mothers are out there drinking sodas and drinking wine and while they're pregnant with their babies. And we know that they've done studies where the baby is attached to the umbilical cord, and the baby's umbilical cord has 285 toxins in there. So is it difficult at times to get a mother that's addicted to junk food and doesn't believe that nutrition makes a difference? That's not your clientele, is it?
So when I first, one of my thesis statements that I say is that what we're going to talk about, as a couple, and I try to deal with couples, not just the mother, because the father is just as important, but what we are going to talk about is what's best for the baby, not what's best for you, or what makes you feel good, or what makes you feel normal, or what feeds your addiction. This is what I teach, is what is optimal for the baby. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming from an industry as a doula, and many of the doula certifications, which is simply just another word for a birth coach. But in many of the doula certifications and how they're taught to be an advocate for their client. And I was simply told, if your client decides they want to smoke, it's your role to say, these are the benefits of smoking while pregnant. These are the negative effects of smoking while pregnant. And I presented you this information. Now you can make a decision. I'm never in the world going to work to that capacity. So that person, that is not a client for me. So I consider that that's your junior high, basketball coach, or your junior high piano coach is oh, we're all going to get a trophy and we're all going to be happy. And I'm just going to help you come here and have fun. And in the end, you might, like, I'm at the, concert level, Kennedy Center, is London Symphony Orchestra, the NBA championships of, listen, we have a 9-month, to get here. Practice starts today and we're going to practice perfect. So when we get to the game time situation of giving birth or whatever it might be, and that push comes, you're going to have the best experience possible.
Okay, so we're talking about the person who's already pregnant is coming to you, but we know, you and I know, that the majority of the people that walk around the planet are toxic. We're toxic, whether it's EMFs or food or metals or water or dehydrated, or maybe, they're not getting enough rest. There's too much stress and they want to get pregnant and they're maybe having some issues getting pregnant. What is your awareness that you bring to the table for someone who is now looking at maybe preparing their body because they have no other choice? They're not getting pregnant.
All right. I'm gonna answer the question. First, I'm gonna start with a thesis sentence, so as everybody kind of knows where I'm coming from.
Okay.
My stance is that birth is a natural process that sometimes happens medically, not a medical process that sometimes happens naturally. So I'm all about natural, conception, natural fertility, natural birth, natural breastfeeding. And that's where I'm coming from. So if we're looking at what are the reasons couples can't get pregnant, so what is the cause of infertility, I'm just going to give it away. The main things is old birth control. So when people are taking these hormones to prevent you from getting pregnant, and then all of a sudden you want to flip a switch and get pregnant, and they're not detoxing the birth control from their bodies and these hormones, then those hormones are still affecting them from getting pregnant. And I've talked to handfuls of women that have gone to a fertility clinic, and not once have they addressed or even asked them about their birth control or how long they've been off it, or what brand they were on, what chemical was it, and how we can get rid of it.
Okay, so with that in mind, how would you say, if somebody's on birth control, how much time should they be off of birth control before even contemplating getting pregnant? Because I never took birth control. I could not even handle birth control.
Yeah. I don't know the exact answer to that.
Okay.
Which is probably the best answer I can give. When I'm working with somebody, I would like them to do 9 months before they try to conceive, to get rid of that birth control, those hormones, the heavy metals, all the bad foods, and everything that we need to get rid of. So that can be about a 9-month process, because 9 months is a cycle that the body cycles on. That's why we also have a 9-month pregnancy. So I'd like to do that 9 months. So I would say 9 months with me on my program. That's how long I think it would take. If somebody's just off birth control, they're not detoxing or eating the right foods, I would have no idea how long that would take.
I see your point. I see your point now.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions, Tom. So I want to make sure, because we don't have time after the show today to do we normally do a teacher's pet, but we haven't done one in a while, but we have some questions. She said, Vanessa says, I have 2 children expecting babies both in June. Expecting babies both in June. Both moms have big issues still with morning sickness. Oh man, I had morning sickness both pregnancies, it was awful. I never hurt anybody like that, like me. I was hospitalized twice for it, because I couldn't even swallow without throwing up. And what helped me was an adjustment. I gave my baby up for, like, my body was not mine anymore, and I did whatever I had to do for the baby, but I still was sick the whole 9 months. So what do you advise for people? Because the pharmaceutical industry will give them a drug that may cause their children not to develop.
Yeah. I will answer that in general speaking, so not to her exact situation.
Okay.
But the first thing that comes to my mind is what we can call burnt out adrenals. And what's going to lead to that is coffee, caffeine, chocolates. We could also be looking at any sort of eliminating dairy products, eggs. These are things that when the body has to continuously detox these out of the system, then it doesn't have time to work on the needs of the baby. And then you're going to get toxins that are backing up because it's not detoxing. So those would be some of the things I would focus on. I would definitely focus first on if the mother's consuming any caffeine or chocolate or doing anything that's in extreme levels of stress to eliminate that.
Well, I will tell you that what my doctor told me, whether it's real or not, I'm not certified to do anything. I just know anecdotally what happened to me was, and I think I reread the question. So she has 2 children and both are expecting in June, the 2 children. That's what I reread it over. I'm like, I read that wrong or something.
It's a family tree. Yeah, I get it.
There we go. Yeah, it's the family tree. Well, congratulations on that. That's exciting. But for what happened with me and what the doctors told me was happening to me is that my pregnancy was so strong. The hormones were so strong that my body couldn't handle it. Remember, I just said earlier that I couldn't handle birth control pills. They would make me sick.
Yeah.
And so the body, when I got pregnant, handled it the same way, or I was sick the whole entire time. But what helped me was that no matter what was going on in my body, I would get up. I didn't care if I throw up 100 times a day. I still got up because I was doing whatever I needed to do for the babies, for my baby. And so I feel for any mom that tells me they have morning sickness, but I always say, that means your pregnancy is really strong. That's great. That's great. And that's what I had to think. And that's how I was able to shift my mentality, is I knew that if I had to throw up to have a healthy baby, then bring the bucket, because I was going to throw up all day long. Okay. So anyway, that's my medical advice or whatever. Okay. So we have John. Any stories regarding miracle cures for cancer that I saw in Vienna woman, half a teaspoon? Oh, I don't know what this is.
I think you got the wrong.
Yeah, I think somebody's, I've got to check that out. So
while you search for the next question, I will go back to our other person. I would say you would also want to increase your amount of fruit that you're eating. So if you're getting headaches, that morning sickness is, dehydration. So fruits are going to be very hydrating. You can do a nettle tea. I would say nettle tea is very good for pregnant women. There's no complications with that at all. So get like traditional medicinals, something like that, a nettle tea, and then increase your fruit content. You can go with watermelons, mangoes, papayas are all excellent. And then what I also like to bring in for pregnant women is steamed potatoes. So steamed sweet potatoes, steamed red potatoes, steamed, Yukon Gold potatoes. These are high in glycogen, which feeds the brain, nice. But that's what feeds the baby as well. So the baby's body is predominantly going to be built on glycogen, which is sugar from fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. And then, you get your minerals and such from your nettle tea and your vitamins from your fruits. So if we, started to bring in and look at what the nutrition is, and then the morning sicknesses will tend to go away.
Well, I wish you would have been around when I was pregnant. Nobody told me that. Yeah. Nobody told me the things I could eat and could not eat. It was, back then it was like winging it. And I tell you what, it's been almost 33 years since the last time I was pregnant. My youngest is going to be 33 in April. And I will tell you that I remember the day that the doctor went into my room and said, this was for my first pregnancy. I just kept throwing up, and my ketone level was so high that my doctor said, you have no fat in your body. Now your body is going to start eating your baby. He goes, we need for you to eat. And I said, then bring a tray. And I would have it. And he brought me 7 trays of food. They were all stacked up. And so I would eat, throw up. And he goes, eventually something's going to stick. I would eat, throw up. I would eat and throw up. And so eventually something stuck. But you got to do whatever you got to do. And this is a small part of our life. But man, if I would have had somebody say, eat sweet potatoes or steamed potatoes, or because it helps with the brain and it helps with the baby, man, that's such invaluable information. What other information as a certified doula that's preparing people for that natural birth, because birth, like I thought when I was pregnant with my first, that breastfeeding was natural. Well, it was the furthest from natural, because we had the nurses at the hospital trying to feed the baby with a bottle and glucose water. And I didn't know any better. I didn't know that it was painful to breastfeed. I didn't know any of that. And so it would have been nice to have somebody say this to me prior to signing up for this. So what would you say to someone that is preparing their body to breastfeed?
So when you work with me, it's a whole system. So I've had people that kind of get mad and they're like, oh, well, you need to do this at this point. And I said, well, if the clients work with me for 9 months till they got pregnant, they've been working with me for the last 9 months, they're not going to have this deficiency of this, this, and this. So they don't have to do all this, weird stuff that's just trendy, but it's not optimal for the birth. I would just say, don't get stuck in that, oh, well, I only have a little bit of this poison, so it's fine. Or my intuition says that I should eat this ice cream. Our intuition is hijacked by marketing and media and promotions and the televisions. There's boards that pay a random sitcom to make sure when that woman on the sitcom is pregnant, that they show her eating giant hamburgers and saying, "We'll get that out of there. I want the tub of ice cream." There's people
Programming.
That's programming. They will, on every TV show, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm gonna have natural birth," they will make fun of that person, and then in the end, they have that person say, "Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm gonna do it this way."
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do is, if we start where we're hydrating and drinking our nettle teas and our coconut waters and just clean, not tap water, and then we work, we're eating our fruits and our vegetables, and we're eating stuff high in what builds a baby, and we're avoiding these rancid fats and oils and sugars and all the stuff that I could list. Then when we get to that situation, we're not feeling like, oh, I'm craving this and I'm craving that, my baby must need that, or they won't be telling me this. You just stick on the same fruits, vegetables, superfoods, whatever it may be, with quality supplements, and you go all the way through that process. That's the situation that gives you the most optimal birth. What we're really looking to do is, at that moment of birth, we want the body to be relaxed and comfortable, and we want that fight or flight to be used at birth. We don't want to use our fight, flight, or freeze the entire 9 months leading up to pregnancy while we're taking all these poisons and doing high stressful things, and consuming caffeine, and then your body's like got to detox that, and now it's stressed out, and then you get to the moment of birth and you go to push and you don't have that stored energy. It's like your battery's lower. So I'm putting you in a process that's charging your battery. Now you got fertile. Now we're charging your battery, and now we're at this moment of natural birth.
Okay, let's talk about that natural birth because many women are so drugged with the spinal block, or so they don't feel anything from the waist down. They don't feel anything. They don't even feel the baby come out. What advice? Because just recently, a dear friend of mine, their daughter had a natural birth, didn't do any drugs at all throughout the whole process. I was amazed. She had a doula come to her home, a midwife,
Yeah.
and they had a pool. She gave birth to the baby in the pool. She didn't have any Pitocin or any drugs to accelerate or slow down the process. She had the baby natural. My heart just like, oh, I wish I would have been that kind of mother. But just the start of the process of her bringing that child into the world has been unbelievable. So what advice do you give to someone who decides to have a birth at home or home birth? And now what are some of the choices that they need to make so that they can make this dream a reality, to have the baby without any chemicals, without any drugs, naturally?
So I would consider myself a prenatal doula. So I would be the first line that you would come with. And then I will help you, choose a birth doula who's going to be in the delivery area with you, that can rub your back, bring you a wet washcloth, get you water, take care of you. That's what, most people consider what a doula is a birth doula, is a person there. And then I can also help you, choose your midwife. So somebody that is skilled. In this world, we also had midwives where they're considered a midwife, but they're trained by the medical system. And they've just been we call them midwives, because they are whatever the hospital wants, they tell you, and you think you've hired somebody that's your advocate to go down the natural birth, and they're midwives. They just been brainwashed through the midwife system as opposed to the medical system to try to lead you and scare you into having a birth that has to have interventions, and births with interventions are more profitable to the industry. So what I want to do is help you find a great birth doula, a great midwife, and then a great, pediatrician that you can go to as well once your child's born, that when we all align together as a team, and a great lactation consultant as well for breastfeeding.
Yeah, the second time around, I did that. I did La Leche League. I was very aware of what was going to happen to my body the second time around, but it's nice to have. So I'm sure that you have hand-selected a team of people that help support the couple during this time.
Yeah. And then when we all come together, then we're all in the room together. You can choose to have home with a water birth. You can choose to go to a birth center. You can even choose to use the hospital. In some areas, that's the only situation. But if we all have a team and we've all been together for this whole 9 months, then we all know what our plan is going in. And we're not going to get scared by tactics that are actual, just straight up psychology that's being used against the mother so that they can add billing procedures on there or not get sued or have complications. And the industry has really been hijacked. I'll circle back to me just sitting in, Phoenix, Arizona with a fractured clavicle. I've looked at the Federal Reserve Board and the finances and how our money system's corrupt. And I've looked at all the wars and how we have fake wars just to move money in and out of countries to line people's pockets. And I've looked at, from crime to poverty to all these conspiracies that exist in the world. And at one point, I thought the only thing I can control is when I open my refrigerator, what foods and beverages I put in my body. So that's what I decided to be an expert in. And then all of a sudden I had this, oh my gosh, that doesn't do anything. Like, I need to be an expert in birth and to make sure that these kids are raised from the moment of birth, that first hour. What happens to that baby in the first hour can determine what happens to that baby for its entire life. If somebody says, I'm 40 years old and I have Crohn's disease, you can say, you weren't a natural birth. And they'll go and look and be like, yeah, you're right, I was a C-section baby. And you never got the microbiome that was established as you come through the birth canal. You weren't the proper hormones that your mom makes that you have, the hormones that you make. And so I will answer that question with saying, what is the most important thing you can do in all this birth experience? And if I left you with one thing, it's that what I call the optimal hour once the baby comes out. So a beautiful scene that you kind of painted would be, the midwife's in there, the doula's in there, and then soon as all the medical stuff is done and the father grabs that baby, then everybody else in the room leaves the room. The father's, has his shirt off and he's skin to skin with the baby. He looks at the baby, looks the baby in the eyes, and then presents the baby to the mother. And she's completely, has her shirt off, and the baby lays on the mother's chest. So what's happening in that moment is that pheromones are coming off of the baby's head into the father's nose, into the mother's nose. The mom's looking the baby in the eye, and the baby's looking the mom in the eye. And we have all these, sensories. The 5 senses are all enacted. And what's happening is the human body, the mom's body says, my baby is alive. I can see in their eyes, I can smell their head, and I can hear their noise. So the mom's body says the baby's alive. The baby looks into the mom's eyes and sees, okay, my mom is alive. She survived birth. I can see her. I can smell her. I can hear her. and I can touch her and I can sense her heart beating, we're going to have this beautiful life together. And when we have that optimal birth and the father's there, then all this hormones and all the oxytocins of love comes into play. But when we have what's opposite, what I'll call a medical birth or an invasive birth or a technological birth, and the doctor takes the baby from the mom, and the doctor is the first one to look the baby in the eyes, and the doctor smells the baby, and the baby sees the doctor's eyes, the doctor's smell, the doctor's pheromones, and then the second person is the nurse, and then all of a sudden that goes away. Now we have a baby that doesn't know where it was born into the world, and who's thinking, my parents didn't survive this, and now I have to turn in fight, flight, or freeze, and I can't put out the hormones of love. I have to put the hormones out of trying to survive in a world without parents. And that's probably one of the number one things that I try to get to people. And we have a system that is designed to make sure that that love bond is broken in the first hour. And
Wow.
And if I just give you the smallest, like from the heart examples, putting a hat on the baby's head immediately, the baby is not cold. It doesn't need a hat. That hat is placed on the baby's head so that the baby's smell doesn't go into the mother or the father. Instead, it has the smell of detergents or fabric softeners or dryer sheets, and it's keeping the pheromones from coming off the top of the head. Even swaddling the baby, if they wrap a baby immediately in that blanket, we see it's the same blanket in every hospital because it needs to be done, then we're preventing skin-to-skin contact. The baby wants to be out, it wants to move, it wants to experience all its senses. It doesn't want to be tightened into a ball. And no matter how many people, oh, well, the baby was smashing the ball in the womb, that's how it feels comfortable. It wants to be out and alive, it wants to be chest to chest with the mother and father. And we have a medical system that's immediately putting cream, I'm just going to use the word cream, in the eyes of the baby. And that's immediately preventing that baby from making eye-to-eye contact with the baby's mother and father and making those signals established.
Wow. So much that happens in that hour, that critical hour that has been circumvented and hijacked by the system. I hope that all of you who are listening to this right now, think of someone that you love, someone that's going to have a baby. This information is critical for all of you to continue. Like, we can just stop it right here. This is where we take 100% responsibility. My registered service mark is you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. It's not that I'm against the pill, but I am for doing everything you can. We've heard story after story from Tom and how changing to your lifestyle, the way you eat can transform the way your life is going to be for as long as you take that final breath. And if you're interested in learning more, go to whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe, like and follow me on all social media, and share this video with your friends. Let them know that there's more to birth than what we think. We tend to give away our trust. So if you are interested in learning more about Tom, all of Tom's information is in my blog that came out on Sunday. You just click on his name and it'll take you to tomwhitmire.com. And so while you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, please check out my sponsors, because without my sponsors, they're so helpful to the classroom. Please support them the way that they have supported the classroom. Also, you can go to my Shop Now bag, where we have all sorts of things happening. Right now, we have Dr. Thomas Levy. He's gonna be training the doctors, training the practitioners, and protocols that you will not get anywhere. And so he's going to be training all of you on February 26th, which is a Sunday, from noon to 6. And we also have in March 17th through 19th, we have the I Am the Solution virtual workshop. That's continuing education of the spirit and soul, which most people spend a lot of money continuing education, but for their careers, but very seldom do people think about their spirit and their soul and continuing education with that. So I hope that you can join us with that. Space is limited, so make sure you sign in right away. Also, I want to encourage you to check out all the different products that we have that are Lilly approved, whether it's products that are for beauty that have no chemicals, all organic, all the way to working out with bands that will help you maximize your workout. Please check out my Shop Now bag. And last but not least, you can become enrolled student in the classroom. So whether you donate $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, whatever that is, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure, everything is appreciated in the classroom. Today we have Tom Whitmire. He is a certified doula, but again, he is much more than that. For those of you who are not thinking about getting pregnant and you need someone to help you to manage your lifestyle, he is someone great. I'm also a certified life coach, but I help with another aspect of, food is important, but it's not the end all be all. It's a spirit, mind, body approach. And that's what I've been hearing from Tom the whole entire time, that, we need to look beyond. And so if you're interested, and what was that? I'm hearing that was funny. I have no idea where that came from. That was not me.
Bless you.
Whoever that was, God bless you. So anyway, so today we're talking with Tom Whitmire, who has been so special. We danced go check out the Vegan Wagon. When's your next Vegan Wagon event that you have?
February 5th, we'll be in Palm Beach Island at the Ullman Bar with Dr. Steven Spencer will be our guest speaker. And then March 7th, we'll be at Gratitude Garden Farm. And that's in Loxahatchee/Wellington, Florida. And that's going to be a farm to table dinner. And that's going to also be a guest speaker. Joseph's going to talk about mushrooms, fungi, and organic turmeric. So that's a farm that grows fungi and turmeric.
Very good. Very good.
Real close to West Palm Beach.
And all that information is at Tom Whitmire. You can also find him on Facebook and all his social media. We tried to link your social media to us, but for some reason it didn't link up, but people can find him on social media as well. So we only have like 5 minutes less, probably less than 5 minutes in the broadcast here. Let's go back to people that are having fertility issues. What would you say are 3 things they can do to set their body to receive? Because you talked about birth control, how sometimes that helps. And I know that there are people who don't want to have a baby, so they take this birth control to not have a baby, but they still have that I don't want to have a baby emotion. What would you say would be other things that they can do other than changing their perception and welcoming a baby into their life? What would you say they can do as far as nutrition or dairy, wheat, whatever?
So if you're detoxing, I would keep detoxing. And what I kind of call my own special thing is detox by don'ting. So it doesn't cost any money to don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and all the stuff that's adding up. So don't do the coffee, don't do the caffeines, don't do the energy drinks, don't do the alcohol. All the stuff that the doctors will say, oh, well, that's fine in moderation. The doctor is going to say that because they don't want you to find a new doctor. People that are addicts will just find a doctor that approves of their addiction. And stressing out the adrenals to not lead to fertility is also hot yoga is one that we're told is great. But if you're at 103 degrees every single day working out, that's stressing you out, and that's not going to be good for your fertility. And then the same way, cold water plunging and all this, cold water hydrotherapy or chronic, hyperbaric chambers or the cryo chambers, not good for fertility. So anything that's creating high stress, if you go in a far infrared sauna, which, we all kind of promote, don't go over that, 20 minutes. Like in the past, I just put on a sitcom. They're 22 minutes long, and then I'm done. You're not trying to go in there for 150 degrees and be a hero. Stop being a hero. I've had clients that they were doing a fertility shot, and they were going the next day to do all the in vitro and everything, and they did a NASCAR experience the day before. So they were adrenaline junkies, and they went on this big adrenaline high, and their body shot out is full of adrenaline. And when you have adrenaline in your body, that rapidly ages you, and it's not creating an environment for fertility.
Wow. And so you're saying that people that are athletes running marathons, that's stressing their body out, that maybe they should take a little vacation just to prepare the body to calm it down to receive that fertilized sperm and egg?
I would say, yeah. So like if you're running short, so human beings are designed to do like short sprints but long extended where, okay, I no longer can run like this. And now I'm like fully collapsed and I'm just trying to make it to the finish line so I can stay. That's not beneficial for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we're in closing, I would just like to express the importance.
Hold on a second. We're gonna finish that thought. We're gonna continue our conversation. We'll just do a small little. You can finish that thought, but please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you, worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Tom Whitmire wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, I did not mean to, because I knew that we were going to be cut off whether you were speaking or not. So finish your thought. What is it that you wanted to say?
One of the most important things you can do, and what I want to leave you with, is the importance of breastfeeding your baby. In that optimal hour, the baby will latch, they will find the nipple, and it will be comfortable, and they'll get colostrum. And that's when they're getting all the, the mom's making everything that they need for that baby to establish their immune system for the rest of their lives. And the baby's immune system is the mother's milk. The mother, from the spit will go into the nipple. The mom will create everything it needs to whatever that baby needs in that moment, and you breastfeed the immune system back into the baby. Breast milk's about 96% sugar water, so it's built from fruits and vegetables. It's not made of fats or proteins. So focus on fruits and vegetables. And I try to tell people, breastfeed your baby until their teeth fully come in. When the baby's teeth comes in, when a human being's teeth come in, then they switch over the enzymes of digesting food and not digesting milk. So that's a key. So at least a year. Don't let your doctor or whomever talk you into at 6 months to get off. Oh, we want to bring the father and get him involved, so we're using a bottle. It's not worth it. If you often meet who is the smartest person in the room, if you're at a party and the smartest person in the room, ask them, were you a natural birth and were you breastfed? And I bet you if they come back with an answer, they were breastfed and that they were a natural birth, because it creates people that are bigger, better, stronger. And you may have to sacrifice 9 months for fertility, 9 months of the pregnancy, and maybe those first 9 months or 2 years breastfeeding. But for the next 18 years of your life, it's going to be very simple for you. You can bring your baby to yoga and they can sit there next to you and everybody's done. You have a baby? My baby would cry. And you're like, well, my baby's optimal baby. I work with Tom. Like my baby doesn't. My babies don't cry. They don't get rashes. They don't get ear infections. They don't have, I have this blood thing or any of that stuff. And it's from the natural birth and it's from the breastfeeding. And the last tip, if you do move into maybe just breastfeed in the morning, at night, and you pump and do a bottle, you have to label those bottles. When you pump milk in the morning, it's designed for the baby in the morning. So a lot of people will pump morning milk and give it to a baby at night. It's got all the hormones for creating energy and going through the day, and you're giving that to the baby at night and wondering why the baby won't sleep. And then the same thing with milk at night. If you pump milk from the night, you got to label at night and give it to the baby later in the evening, because that's got all the hormones and everything mom produced to put the baby to sleep. So if you're like, oh, my baby's chaotic, I don't know what's going on, it's because you haven't gone through the processes or had these little tips and tricks that nobody wants to tell you about, because they can't make money off you. They make money if your baby can't sleep. Then you go to the doctor and they give you a pill or tell you something. I'm telling you, these are the tips and tricks that I don't make any money off of. I just want you to know, and so that you're having the best life ever.
And once again, I'll just give you the number. If you want to get a hold of Tom and have a conversation with Tom, you can go to tomwhitmore.com, or you can call him 305-771-1414. That's 305-771-1414. Tom, it's been great. I really have enjoyed this conversation. You really taught me a lot. I think that right now we're done having grandbabies. That's what I think, we're done having grandbabies, but our grandbabies are old enough. Some of them are old enough that they're having children now. So, the cycle of life is always with us. And so whatever cycle we're in, whatever point in our life, we can use this information to help the next generation coming forward. And I am so grateful. I wish you would have been on my side when I was having babies, but I'm glad that you are here and that you're helping the next generation have the perfect births. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a sprout standing day. Aloha.
Aloha. Okay, bye everybody.